Welcome to Oddball. I'm Charlotte Wilder. That's Amin Elhassan. Amin, I have been watching the Olympics like it's my job, which I suppose it is my job, which is a nice thing about our jobs. We get to watch the Olympics and be like, I'm not just sitting on my couch. This is for work. We have made it through the first round of Olympic basketball. It's officially over. The results are in. Team USA is very good, and they lead the tournament in points per game at 105.7, first in point differential, plus 64, first in average margin of victory at 21 points. And here's the thing, Amin, I don't know still if this has made everybody in the US feel confident. What's your takeaway after round one?
Yo, you're really bringing a lot of Celtics energy to this. No, Charlotte, this is playing for Team USA in the Olympics is like being like a highly drafted quarterback playing in preseason, right?
Okay.
Caleb Williams for the Chicago Bears. He plays in a preseason game. If he throws for 7 touchdowns and like 500 yards, everyone says what? The preseason, who cares, right? But if Caleb Williams goes out there and gets rocked or gets picked off 3 times, whatever, everyone's like, oh my God, you can't even win in you can't even play in the preseason. You're going to try to play the real deal in the NFL? It's the same thing here. There's nothing Team USA could do in their preliminary round to make everyone feel like, yeah, we got this. Everyone's just going to say, yeah, it's what you're supposed to do. But the moment there are storm clouds on the horizon, that's when everyone's going to be like, oh, told you should have had Jaylen Brown or whatever the hell. So, look, it's an unenviable position, but it's also a position of privilege, right? When the privilege is you're the best, so you're supposed to do this, so no one gets excited and puts your report card up on the fridge because we all thought you were going to do this anyway.
I mean, would you say then that the opening round is sort of more for assuaging fears that people may have, like making sure that people are like, oh, okay, so we're good, rather than being like, or more of like assuaging anxiety, but also like confirming fears? Like if this had gone badly, look, I'm realizing I have like a lot of trauma from being a Celtics fan over the past couple of years that I think is coming out in the form of watching Team USA.
Hey Siri, spell assuaging.
Why?
I love that word. I think
wait, let me see if I got it right. ASUAGING.
I don't know.
2 S's, and it's written. Yeah. It's actually been written down.
Yeah,
right in front of me.
You remember, you can't spell assuaging without an ass.
And here she is.
It has to happen, right? Like it has to play out. That doesn't mean that there are no threats, because there are. Germany has looked incredibly strong in the first round. And they are the defending World Cup champions, right? Mm-hmm. Serbia obviously has Nikola Jokic, who is quite the handful. Greece has Giannis Antetokounmpo. And of course, we got to always bring up the point that you have to worry about Canada with their incredibly deep roster. So, look, I'm not trying to say that there are no risks, that there are no threats. Germany, the defending World Cup champs, have played phenomenally. Serbia still has Jokic. Greece still has Giannis. And of course, we can't forget Team Canada with their incredibly deep NBA lineup. I'm just saying, like, there's nothing Team USA could have done assuage the fears in the first round.
Yeah, even though I guess they started slow in a couple games, but that doesn't really mean anything. Do you think another Celtics-related neuroses question, do you think Derek White turned out to be the right choice on that roster spot when Kawhi had to not play?
Steve Kerr certainly thinks so, because he's been playing that dude a lot, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's not going to get proven to be the wrong decision until we get the game where nobody can score. And it's like, oh, if Jaylen Brown were here, we would have had another score out on the floor. But the reality is, this is a game of hindsight. No one right now looks and sees, look, these are serious structural issues that we're dealing with. They just wait for something to go wrong. And then they go, see, if we had done it this way, things would have been different.
Well, I mean, Team USA women also secured the number 1 seed in the middle round after beating Germany 87-68. This is the U.S. women's 58th Olympic win in a row. They have not lost since the 1900s, as the kids are saying, which is a direct attack on my own mortality. The last time they lost was in 1992 Barcelona Games. But people are still finding ways to talk about this team, too. They're saying, did they have enough time to practice together? Or, the guards have only scored 4 points combined. So I think, first of all, it is contractually obligated in our contract, along with the LeBron clause. We have that Caitlin Clark clause. So I want to play a mini game of lie detector. Yeah, you got the contract? Good. Okay. Here's Don Staley's recent quote about leaving Caitlin Clark off of this Olympic team. We can't put this up because we can't show you because we'd get sued. But I can tell you what she said, which is that if we had to do it all over again, the way that she's playing, she would be in really high consideration of making the team because she is playing head and shoulders above a lot of people. I mean, lie detector.
Oh, I don't have all my equipment here. I didn't know we were going to play this, but it's, you know what? I lied.
You detected your own lie.
Yep. That's right.
Oh, yeah, there you go. You have one. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, all right. I can't show you the screen, but because the wires and stuff, but
the people believe you.
Yeah, well, let me punch it in right here. This is what we like to call the honest thief version of a lie, where she didn't lie. She just didn't tell certain things. So look at that quote again, if we could throw that up on the screen. If we had to do it all over again, the way that she's playing, meaning how she's been playing the WNBA, she would be in really high consideration of making the team because she's playing head and shoulders above a lot of people. This is a statement that says nothing. It makes people who like Caitlin Clark feel good, like, yeah. But it really says nothing because it says, oh, she's playing great, which we all knew. Yeah. It would really make us seriously consider her. That doesn't mean we'd put her on the team. That doesn't mean we take someone else off the team in order to have her on. It just means, hey, we mentioned it. It's the same way that me and Zach Harper years and years ago created this thing called the MVP conversation bar, because everyone all across our sport would talk about, oh, so-and-so needs to be in the MVP conversation. I can't believe he's not in the MVP conversation. To which our rebuttal was always, are you voting for him for MVP? No. Well, then shut up about it, right? Like, it's one of those, we should consider it. I mean, I'm not going to actually put him on the team or vote for him MVP or whatever, but you consider it. It just is like this platitude that people throw out there.
The thing is, though, I mean, I feel like that's all she could say in some ways, because first of all, I do want to just run this back. The Olympic selection process starts 3 years ago. Caitlin Clark was in college, which I guess is not unheard of, but she wasn't the phenom that she is now. And I think that if Don Staley had said, yeah, we should have put her on the team, that begs the question, okay, who are you taking off? You going to go to those Team USA games and look those women in the face and say, oh, yeah, I would replace you? It's just like counterproductive. It doesn't do anything for anyone. Caitlin Clark herself she's like, yeah, can't wait to do it someday. Seems great. I'm not that like cut up about it. So I think the fact that people just like they can't have like a rational conversation about Caitlin Clark without it becoming really about them and like what they think about everything in the state of the world. One thing that I will say, right. Shocker. One thing I will say, the argument about her not being there is bad for audience or revenue. I saw Stephen A say this. He was like, no one's at those games. This is, first of all, like, being a sports commentator and putting on your like marketing hat, who cares? That's not, first of all, like you pointed out, there aren't that many people at the men's games because they are not in Paris. They are in Lille, L-I-L-L-E. They are about an hour outside the city, I believe. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. So like, this is just, we got to stop with that. We have to stop with those kinds of arguments.
Let's assume for a second that the games were sold out on the men's side, but the women's side, we can't get anyone to the games. Oh my God. Oh, and the ratings are bad. Oh my God. When we make these arguments about the NBA or the WNBA, while it is still a marketing argument, why are you guys all of a sudden marketing majors? It's relevant because the strength of the league comes from getting money, and the money comes from selling tickets and having good ratings. So I can see the argument, even though I'm saying, well, why are you the one making this argument? Why do you care all of a sudden about this? We're talking about the Olympics here. Who are you sad for? You sad for Paris, for France? You sad for NBC? Like, you think they're not going to air the women's games next time around because the ratings were bad this time? Who cares? Why are we so concerned? Oh my God, the Olympics aren't making enough money. Guys, the Olympics aren't making money. What are we going to do? They might cancel. We won't have Olympics anymore. Oh, if only Caitlin Clark could save the entire Olympics. Are you high? What are you talking about? Who gives a
I will say also, like, making these arguments, well, first of all, like, ratings are the highest they've been in since like London in 2012. Also, they're putting, I watched sailing this morning. Can't think of anyone like you worried about are you worried about those ratings? Are you worried about like the ratings?
Can you believe they left Caitlin Clark off the sailing team? What the are we doing, USA? Do you want to win the ratings or not? Do you want audience or not? Put Caitlin Clark in every event. Make her run the 100 meters right next to Noah Lyles. I'll bet she'll win because she's perfect. She's the cure to everything.
They should have put me on the sailing team, but that's another conversation.
There are too many ratings then. There'd be too many ratings.
Yeah, too many.
Be sick of winning. All right. Before we move on from the preliminary round to the quarterfinals, I want to do one last shout out to South Sudan. They came close to qualifying for the quarterfinals. A very tough game against Serbia. They ran out of gas down the stretch. All they needed to do was stay within 2 points. For a good portion of that game, it looked like they could win the game, but they just ran out of gas. And I think there's two ways to look at this. The one way to look at it is, man, 4 more years. That's the hard part about any Olympian. When you see them crying and breaking down, even when they win gold. It's not so much about like, oh, I can't believe this is my life or whatever. It's more about, man, this was 4 years of toiling, of your entire life was about this one thing. And you finally reached that moment where there was closure or resolution, at least at these games. So, you know, for those that don't win the gold, there is that feeling of, oh my God, 4 years down the tubes, right? But I think in the case of South Sudan, this is a harbinger for all the things that are going to come. And I think that was, you know, you asked me what the coolest thing was about these Olympics so far, at least. The coolest thing wasn't South Sudan being a plucky underdog and being competitive and almost making the quarterfinals. The coolest thing is to watch everybody around the world in the arena, watching on TV, even the American broadcasters, Noah Eagle and Dwayne Wade, hearing them talk. When have we ever heard the announcers talk positively about Team USA's opponent and like almost like encouraging? They unified everyone and could get behind the idea. Man, this South Sudan story is cool. I hope they continue to succeed. And then finally, I got to give another shout out to Luol Deng, because in a time in history where it feels like taking the low road, being petty, being abrasive, being aggressive, all of these negative things seem to dominate and rule the day. Like Luol stood up and showed us, even when they are, you know, throwing dirt on your name, there's a classy way to handle it. There's a high road to this. There's an honor to this and a nobility, and it still exists. And it's just about all of us kind of grabbing onto that and replicating it rather than giving in to our basest, worst versions of ourselves.
I love that. I mean, I also want to reiterate what you said on one of our shows last week, which is that Royal Ivy needs to be considered for head coaching positions. I hope that when a bunch of coaches get fired this year, as they always do, his name is the first one that comes up, because you can't deny what he did on a world stage or what he's been doing in Houston or for his whole career. So thank you for that. Let's go back to America. What else do we have to talk about with Team USA?
Well, Team USA, you know, there's a lot of downtime, Charlotte, during the Olympics. It's not just like games and practices and stuff, and you're around all these other great athletes. And so Team USA has gotten known for its side quests during these Olympics, during those off days. We start with Anthony Edwards, table tennis superfan, and he's now hanging in the Louvre. In the Louvre. Look at that dunk right there.
Oh, there he is. Duncan. Yeah. I thought that was real, but apparently it's a Photoshop.
It's a Photoshop, because if it was real, it would be painted by Carr Jackson, who painted my Star Wars thing behind me there. So shout out to Carr Jackson, the official painter artist of Team USA. All right, what else we got? We've got Bam Adebayo taking up fencing.
Okay. I mean, look, long arms. That could be very, very helpful.
True, but at the same time, wide, very wide.
Yeah. But you forget how wide they are when you see them on TV, but then you're up close and you're like, oh, they're very wide.
That's a lot of surface area to kind of stab. What was it? Stabbing? They call it poker stab.
Touch,
I don't know.
jab? I don't know.
Jab. Tab? Stab.
Sure.
All right. All right. But one side quest that the entire team partaken in was watching the 100-meter dash featuring the very caustic Noah Lyles, who said this.
I have to watch the NBA Finals, and they have world champion on their head. World champion of what? I love the U.S. at times, but that ain't the world.
What a jackass. All right, so that was last August when Noah Lyles said this. So on Sunday night, the whole team went to go watch him run in the 100-meter dash, which he won, which is kind of the first stepping stone to being the type of athlete that people have to pay attention to for things other than his words. But Charlotte, Devin Booker put it all in perspective after the gold.
Yep. He said, I still don't agree with the comment. I feel like all the best talent in the world is in the NBA. And this is coming from an Olympic gold medalist who believes that being an NBA champion is probably harder to do. Book said it. I think something that I will say for Noah Lyles is that the amount of trash he has been talking for a year now to then win the 100 meters is to actually back that up. Because I was watching him at the start after everything that he'd said, all of his antics. And I was like, there is no way this guy is actually going to do it. And then he did it by, as you said, an eyelash. But, you know, that still counts.
Yeah. Look, what Book said is 100% accurate. The winner, the NBA champ, is a world champ because the best talent plays here. Nikola Jokic doesn't play in Serbia. He plays here. Giannis doesn't play in Greece. He plays here, right? Luka doesn't play in Slovenia. He plays here. The best talent in the world plays here. And so it just so happened that 29 of the 30 teams are in the USA. But the reality is the winner of the NBA championship is the world champion because there isn't a team in the world that can beat them, right? It's not like when they play a 7-game series against Barcelona, the Celtics are in trouble. Because, again, all the best players are here. Maybe that's something that Noah Lyles doesn't understand because all he does is put on his little cleats and run.
It still is impressive. It still isn't impressive. He does need to respect Canada, though, because it is the world champions, because there is a team outside of the U.S. So when we come back, we will discuss the other Team USA and learn more about 3x3 basketball from our conversation with Coach Fran Fraschilla. Welcome back to Oddball. Now, Amin, the men's 3x3 basketball team was eliminated on Sunday by the Netherlands. To learn more about 3x3, why there aren't any current NBA players on that roster, here is more of our interview with Fran Fraschilla, the director of the program.
I have coached the last couple of years. My title is, I'm like the Jerry Colangelo
there you
of
go.
the 3-on.
There you go.
I don't have the budget. I do not have the budget of Jerry Colangelo, but I am the senior advisor. And there's a little nepotism involved because my son James is the assistant coach. He's probably the most knowledgeable young guy in 3x3 in the sport.
Except Fran,
so I'll be going to Paris.
Not the most nepotism for someone with the name James. So you're doing great.
I know. His name is not Brownie. His name is not Brownie, but hey, more power to them and more power to the Fraschilla.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. For people who might not be familiar with 3-on-3 basketball, can you tell the good folks at home what it is?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we're all familiar with 3-on-3 basketball because we all grew up playing it. But to your point, and I get it exactly, FIBA Charlotte about 12 years ago created 3x3 half-court basketball. And it's a lot like the way we grew up. 2 points behind the arc, 1 point inside the arc. First team to 21, 4-man team. So every time there's a dead ball, it's so fatiguing. You have to sub. And think of it as beach volleyball to volleyball. That's really what it is. If you love basketball and you grew up, like if you grew up in California on a beach, I didn't. I grew up in Brooklyn. But if you grew up in California, you probably played beach volleyball on the weekend down at the beach.
Right.
And this is very similar. You know, it's a cool sport. It's not make it, take it. It's very fast. Ball goes in the net. You transition to offense to defense. You got to throw it out behind the line to clear it. And it really involves a lot of versatility, skill level. The average player on the world tour is probably 6'5". So it's sort of that 6'3" to 6'8" range. And it's really hard for a big guy to play. You think he dominate inside, but then these big guys will fatigue easily and they're not going to be able to guard on the perimeter. And little guys get posted up. So it's a really cool sport. It's a great player development sport, guys, because there's a 12-second shot clock, unlike Big Three.
Right.
So it's a very fast-paced sport, and it's a very, very tiring sport.
Beyond kind of being 6'5" and versatile, what makes for a good 3-on-3 player?
Well, shooting for sure, because if you have a guy like Jimmer Fredette, which we've recruited Jimmer after a long career, college player of the year, lottery pick, long time overseas, legend in China. When he came home from the pandemic and had missed his family for 9 months being in China, he retired. And I live in Colorado Springs. He's in Denver. And I went up and tried to convince him to help us qualify for Paris. You guys might remember that in Tokyo, our women won the gold in 3x3 because we used 4 WNBA players. Kelsey Plum was the star of that team. We didn't qualify for Tokyo because that team had some injuries. And I came on in 2022 to help kind of build a program. And we did qualify last November, but we got a great group. We've got a foundation for Paris and then LA in 4 years. And I honestly believe there'll be an NBA player or two when they see this in Paris who isn't going to be on the 28 5-on-5 team that'll say, I want to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Coach, that's what I was going to ask. You know, you mentioned in Tokyo, the women took the gold, but they were stacked. Kelsey Plum is one of the best players in the league, playing for the champion Las Vegas Aces, and she's playing on the 3-on-3 team. Is it a case of economics on the men's side where it's just like the juice isn't worth the squeeze for an individual player, or is there another reason why we can't have kind of not the elite of the elite, but at least bona fide NBA talent?
Like a Duncan Robinson has shown interest.
Yeah.
Okay. So Duncan's a great example. It's a great question. Again, I can't give you the elevator pitch because I got to always explain the rules.
Right.
Number one, you can't roll into Paris with 4 NBA guys who've never played 3x3. You have to play a certain amount of tournaments to be qualified.
Got it.
And you get a wild card here or there, but you pretty much have to take guys who play on have accrued points.
Right.
And if we were to take an NBA player, they would have to probably play in a few events before the next Olympics. Okay. So if a guy's in the playoffs, it's hard.
Yeah.
Right. Then the other thing is, and you mentioned it, I mean, the insurance,
right?
Like the squeeze. If we have to insure somebody's $25 million deal, it's a little bit pricier than if it was the 5-on-5 team.
Right.
So there are complicating factors that keep us from sending 4 great players. But the ideal guy is not only the young G League guy on the way up who might know he's not going to be an NBA player, but can play in the Olympics. But it's also the guy that's played overseas, that's 30, 31, 32, that's maybe played in the NBA a little bit. And he's coming back home and he's going to start his own business, or he's a personal trainer. In Kareem's case, he's a workout guy for the Minnesota T-Wolves.
Right.
So giving him permission. James, my son, is assistant coach with the Cap City Go-Go.
Right.
The Wizards are all on board with him being gone for a few weeks at a time. So it's not as easy to put together 4 really good players and just go wipe out the competition with 4 NBA guys.
Right. Thanks again to Coach Fraschilla for the time. What a guy. And that is it for Oddball.
Michael Jordan play was fake.